Hey there, everybody, and welcome back to Utility Sports. In today's video, we're doing actually a live stream here of the playoff game with game audio between the Los Angeles Rams and the Seattle Seahawks. And one big thing to watch in this game is the starting QB for the Los Angeles Rams is John Wolford. He did play in Week 17, looked actually pretty solid in that game, a very mobile QB. Austin, walk us through the importance of what he's going to bring to the Rams today with Goff not being the starter.
Yeah, really, it's going to come down to the ability to actually run the football for the Rams. They need to stay consistent with running the football, and you don't want Wolford to throw too many times actually in this game. We're going to probably see quite a bit of play action. Get him some quick, easy throws, build up some confidence. A little bit of short stuff, a little intermediate, but they're not going to really put the ball deep in this game. I don't see that happening at that point, but. For Seattle, they need to come in with the mindset that they're still going to try to tear off the head of Wolford at this point. So
right, yeah.
for them, it's you can't overlook this team, right? There's a reason they got here, and a lot of it's actually due to their defense. So the Rams have been so good defensively due to Brandon Staley and what he's been able to implement with this Rams defense. This is going to be a tough matchup for the Seahawks offensively, but defensively, I think they're going to kind of overlook Wolford. It very well could still be a blowout at this point, but you can't always overlook a team because teams are great in the NFL. There's a lot of really good teams, and you got to be ready to play every Sunday or Saturday for that matter.
Yep. Arizona React says, "Am I the only one here?" No, you're not. We actually have 3 people in the stream right now. Welcome everyone to the stream. Ask us any questions about the game, about anything in NFL. Also, we cover a lot of NFL draft stuff. We're just kind of thinking we're going to cover a little bit more just NFL stuff here in general, talk about the game, what we're seeing. Also, you could ask questions about the Colts game that just finished against the Buffalo Bills. Obviously, a very close ending there in Buffalo. But it's pretty interesting kind of what we got going on here with the Rams and the Seahawks.
Yeah, I think this is going to be a big-time game for the running backs for the LA Rams to kind of showcase what they can do. Cam Akers has the ability to pop off for 150 yards. We've obviously seen that during the regular season. He's a good running back and an underrated running back actually in this league. Hopefully the Rams offensive line can create some holes and make some big plays happen. But, honestly, in Sean McVay's scheme, you don't have to have the biggest arm in order to succeed. Obviously, Jared Goff does not have that huge arm. Obviously, their offense works, the way it is. So look for a lot of Cooper Kupp this game, a lot of Robert Woods too.
Yeah, a lot of underneath stuff for sure. Probably get the run game going and then try and go to the play action out of that to help out Wolford quite a bit is my assumption. And just looking too at the Seattle side of things, this is a game where when you bring in a guy like Jamal Adams, you're expecting him to make high impact plays, whether that be off the edge, which he's done all year as a blitzer, or also in coverage. He's a really athletic freak who can match up with tight ends well. That's going to be something to watch for. Arizona React says that Bills game was kind of crazy. That Pascal catch was a fumble. Colts are lucky they got away with that. Luckily, a bad call by the refs didn't change the outcome. Yeah, definitely it was a fumble we had thought, but it's kind of like one of those things in basketball too, where if a guy deflects the ball off of the guy dribbling it, they usually just give it back to the offensive player because it's going to roll off the guy's hand. It seemed like one of those calls, but obviously did not actually end up mattering either. For that. It's kind of a good thing for the NFL, probably.
Yeah, once again, let's take a look at what we're seeing early. A lot of Cam Akers right off the bat. Obviously, this Rams offense is going to really pound the rock with Cam Akers, and I think in order for them to win this game, he's going to have to rush for 150 yards.
Yeah, definitely. The Rams are going to have to control the line of scrimmage. They're going to have to get a lot on the ground. We see Wolford here deliver a ball underneath, and Kupp does come away with it, it looks like. Oh, no, now they're saying incomplete.
Yeah, it looks like that one was incomplete.
And there's Adams in coverage there, too. That's going to be his importance today, like I was saying.
Yeah, so kind of explain the impact that Jamal Adams and a guy like Carlos Dunlap has on the Seattle Seahawks defense.
Yeah, starting with Jamal Adams, not only is he going to be a guy who you can put out against tight ends, you can have him cover running backs out of the backfield, maybe even match up with some slot wide receivers in zone coverage. But in addition to that, he's going to be a guy that's going to impact the run game. He's going to be able to play right around the line of scrimmage in the box. And every once in a while, with Pete Carroll, you get a lot of versatility because he's going to be able to rush the passer off the edge. As a blitzer, he's going to be able to come through the middle of that defense on delayed blitzes. And honestly, he's a key piece of that defense based on the versatility he gives them. You know, Bobby Wagner's kind of that steady hand in the middle. Now you get a guy who gives you a little bit of versatility and speed, and that's a really good, scary combination. Carlos Dunlap as well. You saw them go out and get him from Cincinnati this year, obviously after his time there ended. And, you know, it's just bringing in another pass rusher. LJ Collier hasn't really worked out since they drafted him in the first round to the fullest extent. So now you get a guy on the edge that you can maybe trust a little bit more to get to the QB with frequency, and Dunlap will do that for you.
Yeah, exactly. I think the big reason for them bringing Dunlap is just, like you said, a lack of consistency rushing the passer. And Wolford got absolutely rocked on that one, 3rd and 9. Now,
perfect timing, too, with Dunlap. That was Dunlap getting to the QB there.
Yeah, exactly. And that's exactly what they've been missing this entire year. And when they went and got Dunlap, it's definitely helped at this point.
See a crossing route there that was intended against Jamal Adams. And just with Dunlap getting home early, cuts that route dead short.
Yeah. I'll put his comment up here. Yeah, I mean, honestly, if the Rams do decide to go pass heavy, they're going to have to put a lot of trust in Wolford, obviously, because you know, they do a lot out of the play action. If they start passing a ton, it's a lot of pressure on a young quarterback, and in a situation where obviously he doesn't have a ton of NFL experience. But if they can trust him to put the ball in the air, a lot of play action, I mean, obviously that could be a winning formula as well.
Yeah, the Seahawks are going to need a little bit of consistency out of their secondary. They do have 2 Pro Bowlers at safety. I see it's going to be a hard route for the Rams to win throwing the ball with John Wolford. Micro Mike, what's up? How you doing?
Everybody in here, subscribe to Micro Mike. Knows so much about the Detroit Lions. Great football mind. We love talking football with him. Micro Mike on Twitter. We'll have to get a date figured out on when we're going to do our mock draft together. I'm really looking forward to doing that.
Yeah, everyone stay up to date with our channel for that. That will be coming out hopefully sometime soon. We do a lot of mock draft stuff. It's honestly one of the more fun things to do, honestly, on the channel. So I hope you guys have been enjoying that. Austin, also looking at some of the other the games going on. Obviously, tonight we have Tampa at Washington. What do you kind of think about that game? Obviously, Chase Young had even said he wanted to face Tom Brady. I'm not sure if that's who I'd really want to face in the first round of the playoffs, but that is what he wanted. So I definitely understand that could be problematic for Washington. What do you kind of think there?
Yeah, Washington, that's a tough game going in, but it's kind of a trap game at the same time for Tampa Bay. Obviously, a weaker opponent to start, but you know, if you look at their defense, they are going to dominate the line of scrimmage defensively, and they're going to give the Buccaneers a ton of issues throughout the entirety of that game. But honestly, I do think that Tampa Bay will come out on top of that one. Obviously, Alex Smith is going to have to do a lot in order to win that game, and I just don't see a pathway really where Washington wins it.
Right, yeah, you're going to look at that front seven having to make a real impact if Washington's going to pull that game out. You're probably going to have to look at least 1 or 2 forced fumbles by that front seven to really change the outcome of that game. But I just think their secondary's not going to be able to deal with the Buccaneers passing offense. I think the Buccaneers defensively are a little too sound for what Washington's going to put out there with Alex Smith really going into the matchup, which is, I don't know, tough. But Washington, you got to be really happy with how the season's gone. Mike says it's going to be a fun game. I have Tampa versus Chiefs for the Super Bowl. That is an interesting thing. Yep. I mean, it's hard to bet against Tom Brady. It really is. Also, Austin, for the Super Bowl, who would you have coming out for both conferences?
I have Kansas City for sure coming out of the AFC. I think Buffalo could be a tough matchup potentially in terms of, before getting to the Super Bowl. I do like Micro Mike's pick there, though, of Kansas City coming out of the AFC. We do believe in Patrick Mahomes still. And also looking at the NFC side of things, I think that Green Bay presents a really interesting Super Bowl case. I do kind of like Tampa, though. I really like the Tampa Bay pick potentially. Alex Smith is out now. Taylor Heineke will be starting for the Washington football team. So that is a late development. Wow.
Oh, yeah, calf injury. Okay.
Oh, that's unfortunate for Washington because Alex Smith is the kind of guy, if your defense is clicking and firing on all cylinders, he can win you a football game just being a game manager. Taylor Heineke is in the biggest position of his entire career. He's been a journeyman quarterback all over. Just that's kind of crazy, man.
That's going to be a tough game for Taylor Heineke to kind of get thrown into the fire. I haven't really gotten too many reps, I'm sure, with the first team there in Washington.
The problem is for Tampa Bay, looking at that, they have one of the best run defenses in the NFL, if not the best. I'm not sure statistically speaking where they sit, but I think they're 1 or 2 in terms of run defense.
Yep.
So then you're putting all the pressure on Taylor Heineke to try to beat guys like Sean Murphy Bunting and Carlton Davis. Like that's a tough matchup. Yeah, for sure, Micro Mike. Absolutely agree. Yo, Micro Mike, let's get you on here. If you're not busy right now, why don't you hop in the stream with us? Sheldon, send him the link.
Yes, gotcha. Let me.
If he's not busy, he's a busy guy, but I like that.
Arizona React says he's not sure if Tampa is going to win the Super Bowl. Obviously, that's kind of a tough pick. The NFC is really, really good this year as well. It's hard to really single one out there to choose which team will represent the NFC. Micro Mike, I am about to send you this link if you do want to join, or if you want to stop in at any point. It'll be there for you in Twitter.
Sounds good, Micro Mike. Hey, gotta hang with the kids. I love it. Absolutely love it, man.
Yeah, no worries, Micro Mike. If you do open up at some point, you definitely can stop in if we're still streaming at that point. But if not, that's totally cool too. We just appreciate you stopping into the stream right now anyway.
Yeah. Once again, subscribe to Micro Mike. Obviously, one of our favorite people on all of YouTube, if not our favorite. We just love working with them, and we'll have some more collabs going forward, and especially throughout the off season. Micro Mike, who do you for sure want? I love it. I absolutely love it. God, he's great.
That's awesome, Micro Mike. Holy cow. Let's see here. Let's pull up Micro Mike's channel here. I'm going to get the link to his channel quick for you guys.
Yeah, absolutely. Subscribe to his channel. Great stuff. Great football content as a whole. Specifically covers the Detroit Lions, all things Lions. So if you have any interest in that, please subscribe to his channel. It's great. Also, Micro Mike, let's talk a little bit about your head coaching situation. Obviously, me and Sheldon are going through the whole search right now. Obviously, Robert Saleh probably is at the very top of your radar in terms of who you want. Any other names that you're really specifically interested in? Arizona Reacts, are you a Cardinals fan? I'm just kind of curious. Or could just be AZ Reacts.
Yeah, it could be.
Probably not signifying Arizona.
All right, guys, here is the link to Micro Mike's channel. Make sure to go subscribe if you haven't already to him. A really great content creator and love really putting stuff out with him. We've been on a live stream of his and that went super well, I feel. So it's definitely awesome working with him. AZ Reacts, let us know who you're a fan of. Also, welcome everyone to the stream that is in here. Super thankful to have you guys a part of the stream right now. AZ Reacts tells Micro Mike the Lions are probably going to get Devontae Smith or Parsons in the draft. So that's definitely something to watch out for. And Micro Mike says report came out. The interview went badly, but hopefully it was a bunk report. Yeah, who really knows?
There's so much smoke screens that go around. It's just insane. And especially like with the whole Urban Meyer thing, I'm not exactly sure where that's going. Yeah, Micah Parsons, one of the best prospects in the draft. We've been really, really high on him. Unfortunate that he had opted out this season, but the dude is an absolute monster, game changer. And I think for Detroit to really, start building that defense, Micah Parsons would be a great building block in the middle of that defense. Sideline to sideline guy, obviously very good in coverage as well, which you can't say a lot about. Some of these linebackers coming out of college, but very
back to the head coaching search, Austin, real quick. So today the New York Jets interviewed Joe Brady. Obviously, for those of you who don't know, he's the offensive coordinator for the Carolina Panthers and was the offensive coordinator for LSU during their perfect season with Joe Burrow. I have fully decided that I'm all in on Joe Brady. I want him to be our next head coach. I understand it's a risk. He's had 1 year in the NFL. I fully am, concerned about that a little bit. That, okay, yeah, he's only 1 real year, but 4 guys this year for the Carolina Panthers accrue more than 1,000 yards from scrimmage. And I just think that hiring an offensive genius like him, someone who's made the offense click at LSU, who struggled this year a little bit, also really turned around Carolina with, a subpar quarterback in Teddy Bridgewater, no real elite number 1 wide receiver, and Christian McCaffrey out for most of the year. I think Joe Brady is the absolute package when you can get a head coach. Maybe, you have to take a little bit of a risk on him here. But if you can lock him in, he could be the guy that could change the New York Jets franchise at that head coaching spot. And I usually don't feel that way about a lot of head coaches. I think most head coaches come in and it gives franchises hope and stuff. But they don't actually, really change a lot because there's a reason that some of them are out there. Even like guys like Marvin Lewis and stuff, is because they didn't really long-term work out in other places. But right. I just think that Joe Brady could be such a special head coach, like especially on the offensive side. If anyone's going to make Sam Darnold work, I would put my utmost confidence in him out of all the other guys out on the market. So,
yeah, exactly. And kind of looking at that, Joe Brady is definitely underrated. Everybody was looking during that offseason for the next Sean McVay, right, after his very successful season. And obviously this is the name that really comes to mind. Joe Brady, just an offensive genius. We saw how that LSU offense was just a well-oiled machine, arguably the best college offense we've ever seen, especially in this generation for sure. Just phenomenal offense and what he put together in the season that Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase, Justin Jefferson, Thad Moss, Clyde Edwards-Helaire. That was an insane season. He boosted the stocks of a lot of prospects through that. And obviously in Carolina, he's done a really good job with a subpar quarterback in Teddy Bridgewater. So a lot of credit to him at this point. And hopefully he gets his shot. I don't know if it's going to be this year or next year, but he's definitely going to get a shot within the next 2 years to become a head coach.
Yeah, it's definitely like kind of what I was referring to as well. I think some GMs are going to be a little hesitant to give him a job so quickly. And I just think, Joe Douglas, if he wants to really turn this franchise around, I think the opportunity is with Joe Brady. Now, is that what we're going to see? Probably not. I'm not assuming we're going to hire him, but I would absolutely love if we did. Austin, for the Jaguars, obviously you guys have interviewed quite a few people as well. Who do you think will end up being the head coach there, and who do you want to be the head coach there?
Who I think will end up being the head coach is Urban Meyer. I am very, very aware of the situation. Shad Khan had Urban Meyer on his private yacht. And at this point, the writing's on the wall. He's already assembling his staff as we currently sit. We're interviewing Saleh today. And I think it's really going to come down to either Saleh or Urban Meyer. But I think with the whole Florida connection, obviously, he coached at the University of Florida, won a national championship there. But at this point, I think it's Urban Meyer's spot to lose if he decides that he wants to, come back and coach, which I think he does. And then looking at who I would actually want, I think it's hard to kind of pass on Bieniemy just because of his exposure to Andy Reid, really getting to learn under a very, very smart head coach, and obviously working with phenomenal talents with the Kansas City Chiefs. It's hard to know exactly how much you can attribute their offensive success to him versus Andy Reid. I'm not exactly sure, because part of it is Andy Reid's never had this dynamic of a team, and is that the reason why he hasn't been absolutely one of the best coaches in the NFL? But at this point, I think Bieniemy has something to do with it. Obviously, a smart head coach and will get a job at some point, and it's going to be this offseason for sure.
Yep, definitely. Micro Mike says Urban Meyer seems to be a lock for the Jacksonville Jaguars. That is definitely kind of what it feels like as well. R. Vega, welcome to the stream. Glad to have you in here, my guy. Very sad from the Colts game. I am too a little bit. As a Jets fan, I did not want the AFC East rival Bills to come out with the win there, but they did it. It's kind of tough. Phillip Rivers does not get the win. That's right. You're a Phillip Rivers fan probably from his days.
Yep.
AZ React says, if I'm the Dolphins right now, I'm thinking, okay, we're not in the playoffs. We got the third pick, and Sewell will probably be on the board. At pick 18, Waddle might be there, so you pick Sewell and hope for Waddle Sewell would be a great addition for them on that offensive line. And even the other thing, too, is remember they have so much draft capital that they might even not have to wait for Waddle. They might even be able to move up, make sure they get Waddle if that's their guy. Austin, do you see that as a way that the Miami Dolphins could go on draft day?
Yeah, I think definitely looking at Sewell with that third pick would be phenomenal. There's a lot of Dolphin fans out there that think their tackle spots are solid, really solid. But I mean, if you can draft a guy like Sewell with that pick and get a franchise guy, I don't see why you don't do that at that point for the Dolphins. I think a trade down possibility is interesting, but they have a ton of capital already. Maybe you can start taking the better players available for sure. Obviously, I think that Miami is in a really good position, regardless of who's on the board, to have a very, very successful draft.
Austin, if you're the Dolphins and you drafted Penei Sewell at 3, with Tua Tagovailoa being a left-handed quarterback, are you playing him at left tackle still, or are you going to start him at right tackle to protect his blind side?
He's going to be my right tackle for sure. Obviously, you have to protect the blind side of the quarterback, and he will be my right tackle indefinitely. Also, let's go to Micro Mike's content. Yeah, there it is. Zach Moss is going to miss some time, so that's going to affect the Buffalo Bills.
Bad drop from Robert Woods there, too. Wolford off the play action.
Yeah, so once again, there's that play action I was talking about. Obviously, the run game's been going pretty well for the Rams, and hopefully they can continue to do that. Penei Sewell, once again, very, very good prospect. Micro Mike is a Ducks fan. How do you feel about the Ducks moving forward, Micro Mike? Let us know.
Our Vegas says, did you guys see that Bieniemy botched or struggled in the Falcons interview? I did not see that myself, Austin. Did you see that?
I did not see that either, actually. I believe it to be legit. I just have not seen that anywhere that I've been looking. I'm kind of interested because what is Houston doing? Can we talk about that for a second? They really angered Deshaun Watson by not – ooh, that was a nice catch there by Cooper Kupp. Wolford's kind of doing his job. This is a little surprising at this point. I did not think that they would be moving the ball this well, actually.
Really well-placed ball there, too. Jamal Adams was about a foot away from undercutting that if that ball is placed a little lower. So wonderful job by Wolford.
I just want to put this on there. Need to beat the Beavers. Yeah, that was a brutal loss. I was not expecting that this year. I'm sure you were very, very shocked to watch that one. I have no idea how that even happened. And obviously, I think in terms of the Texans are a mess. No kidding, right? Obviously, they hired a GM where Deshaun Watson was not happy that Bieniemy didn't even get a look. That's part of the problem in this. Why he's so mad about the GM hire and what they've done so far. He's really wanted Bieniemy to be their head coach or even at least get consideration, which I totally get that.
Right, yeah. If you're Deshaun Watson, and the other issue too with that is not only did he want Bieniemy hired, or even at least interviewed, but he wanted to be a part of the head coaching search, the GM search, and they went ahead and hired Nick Caserio, and that we had a video up on our channel covering that. And when you tell a guy that he's going to be allowed to be included in a process of that magnitude, and then he doesn't end up getting included in that, it just doesn't really bode well for the franchise and their partnership with their franchise QB.
Yeah, exactly. And also, I don't think Deshaun's in, the greatest position or should be in a position of power who to hire at the GM or head coaching spot. I think suggestions could be made, and if he provided solid evidence, I think that makes sense. But obviously, I don't think a player should ever really have a say in the general manager spot or head coach spot, for that matter, unless they've had previous experience working with them. Obviously, we saw with Freddie Kitchens, that's why he got hired, is because the Browns let Baker Mayfield help in that decision.
Right, yeah, and sometimes that just doesn't really work out too well either. If you're looking at, you just have to make sure you pick the right candidate. And I guess for the Texans, if they're going to tell Deshaun Watson that he can be a part of the process, there has to be a fine line that, hey, ultimately we're going to take a little bit of your thoughts into consideration. But at the end of the day, it's still the owner's job and the executive's jobs to make the decisions on the front office, but they want to have him included. And I guess there's just a real disconnect there.
We do have to update with the Rams game. Wolford is down. He has a neck injury. Jared Goff is warming up Oh my goodness! Please put that on the bottom line right now.
Emergency QB Jared Goff is going to be coming into the game here. It seems like
Jamal Adams with an extremely dirty hit, shoulder to the head of Wolford. Really bad. That was not pretty to watch. Wolford will likely be out for a couple of plays at least.
Now, the interesting thing to monitor here, too, is if Wolford is out for a while, what if Goff, has a little bit of a setback with that thumb? What's going to happen for the Rams? I don't know if I don't think they have a third QB active. I didn't catch that before the game.
Right. Exactly. And that's just the thing now. Are they prepared with that third quarterback? I don't know if they have three quarterbacks active in this game. I'm not exactly sure where they stand for that. That was a dirty hit. You never like to see that.
Yeah, Jamal Adams. Oh my gosh.
So from Jay Stewart, let's talk about the Steelers a little bit. Obviously, I got to check the time slot for that Steelers game.
Let me pull that up quick. Steelers.
Yeah. So how do you feel about the Steelers, Jay Stewart? Are you feeling pretty confident in what you've seen for the most part in the regular season? Obviously, there were some issues at the end of the regular season, and then a lot of people really started to get low on the Steelers. But I'm just kind of curious to hear your thoughts as a Steelers fan going into these playoffs.
The Steelers game is the late slot tomorrow as well. It's 7:15 kickoff time, Central Time.
Yeah, I mean, we could probably do that. That would be very fun to watch that.
Yep, that is. Yeah, we'll be watching. We'll be for sure watching all the playoff games. We don't necessarily stream all of them either. So, if on some of our other videos, if you have questions you want to ask us about the Steelers, we could definitely let you know our thoughts on it as well. And we'd love to hear your thoughts. Like you said, Austin, do you guys know the Hail Mary podcast during the draft? You guys should do a collab live stream and break down the picks.
I am familiar with the Hail Mary podcast. I've seen some of their work as well. I'd be interested to reach out and do a little collab. Obviously, with our guy Micro Mike in here, we're definitely going to be doing more collabs moving forward. We will be having a mock draft coming out to you with us three making selections, possibly if Dern would be interested and he could take a team as well.
Yeah, the one thing too to watch for our channel as we move further into the offseason, we're going to have a lot of different coverage on free agency signings, head coach hirings, a whole bunch of different things moving forward. We see John Wolford getting his neck worked on there. Does not seem to be very comfortable at this moment. And he's going back into the tunnel. So this is a little interesting here.
Yeah, Wolford is going to the tunnel. Jared Goff is back. This is kind of a crazy story. Obviously, I don't know. We're going to see how that thumb is. Mock drafts are fun, Micro Mike. Love it. Absolutely love it. Either, we were kind of thinking about a little collab in terms of we each take a team, do like a 3-round mock, or we could obviously take a couple of teams and do a 1-round mock. There's a lot of different things that we could do. Wow, that Wolford hit was not good. Watching that again.
Yeah.
I don't know. Good sportsmanship actually by Adams and Wolford to shake it out.
And Goff does go down, yeah.
And Jared Goff takes the sack. Obviously now they are forced to kick. So at this point, not a lot of movement. Ron Reed with the sack.
Rams will have a shot here to go up 3-0 on the Seattle Seahawks. Wolford did a good job moving the ball down the field. Obviously, a lot on the run game there. Our Vega says Jamal Adams gets to the playoffs and doesn't know how to act. That is exactly facts. Our Vega, obviously did apologize, but it's not a good hit. Even with the apology, doesn't really make the hit go away. Jay Stewart who is your guys' top 3 running backs in the draft? Austin, I'll let you take that one. I'm very confident in what you're going to do 1-2 there, though.
Yeah, for sure. The 2 top running backs in the draft are Travis Etienne and Najee Harris. And then after that, it's kind of interesting because there's a guy that's been flying on my board, Kenneth Gainwell, one of the best pass catching backs I've ever seen come out of a draft. He runs routes like a slot wide receiver, somebody that you really, really need to take notice of. He was an opt-out this season. Definitely could have had a humongous season. But let's take a look at his stats. I can read them to you quick. In his 2019 season at Memphis. Just give me one moment while I pull that up. Obviously, Chuba Hubbard's a name that I'm still monitoring. A lot of people completely jumped off of that bandwagon, but he could have been very well the number one running back this year had he actually opted out. So last year, Kenneth Gainwell had, let's take a look. He only had he had 1,400 yards rushing, 13 touchdowns, averaged an outstanding 6.3 yards per carry. But he also had 51 catches for 610 yards receiving with 3 touchdowns. So absolutely phenomenal season. A guy that not a lot of people are talking about, Kenneth Gainwell.
Right, and he could come in and be a 3-down back. Also a guy to watch for me lately. You pointed this out to me, especially, Austin, with Trey Sermon out of Ohio State. He's been really toting the rock well for the Buckeyes. Obviously, we'll get to see him Monday night in the college football title game. That'll be an interesting game to watch. He gets to face a really pro-ready defense there in Alabama, so he'll be a guy to monitor on that night, as well as Justin Fields. And looking at that quarterback situation, Austin, Justin Fields obviously outperformed Trevor Lawrence in their head-to-head game. Some people seem to think Justin Fields is even worthy of the number one pick. I don't think either of us feel that way quite yet. But with the Jaguars picking first overall, obviously your favorite team, and the New York Jets, my favorite team, selecting second overall, which way could you see each of those franchises going? Do you think the Jets will go quarterback, or what do you kind of feel?
Yeah, I think for Jacksonville, the one thing that kind of concerns me about the Jacksonville Jaguars is the connections to Ohio State. Obviously, Urban Meyer, Ohio State guy, who brought in Ryan Day, who obviously, I mean, he's had tremendous success there with Ohio State, but their connection makes me nervous as a Jags fan because maybe Ryan Day would open up Urban Meyer's eyes to some of the things that Justin Fields does really well and what he's seen personally. So he could have, a lot of great remarks about Justin Fields as the prospect, voting for his guy. But ultimately, I think Trevor Lawrence will be the pick. And I think that Shad Khan, who had mentioned that he wants to make a lot of the personnel decisions early, which I think he refers to the number one pick selection, I think he's going to make sure Trevor Lawrence ends up there.
Yep, definitely. Suzanne O'Connor asks, who do you think is better in the 2021 NFL draft, Zach Wilson or Trey Lance? Trey Lance, obviously, we didn't get to see him play much this year. Only played one game. Didn't look great in that game. However, last year he was absolutely phenomenal all season long. Zach Wilson really shot up boards this year with his play. Austin, which one of the two would you rather draft?
Yeah, so in the 2019 season, Trey Lance had 28 touchdowns to 0 interceptions, which is just outstanding, able to take care of the football, has good arm strength. Zach Wilson, though, obviously does a really nice job maneuvering the pocket, and I don't think he has as big of an arm as, say, a Trey Lance. So if you have good infrastructure around, you can afford to take a guy like Trey Lance. But obviously, if you need a more consistent pocket presence, I think that Zach Wilson would be the go-to guy for you.
Right, definitely. You're getting, kind of your choice there between which play style you want, what your roster kind of fits to as well. That'll be kind of the thing to watch here in the draft is not only where does a QB like Justin Fields go, but is there a team maybe Carolina that wants to be aggressive, move up in the draft, maybe go out and get their QB for sure? Or are a lot of teams going to be confident in sitting where they're at, waiting for a QB to maybe fall to them or drafting another position? That could be a team perhaps like the San Francisco 49ers. If they don't have their QB there at 14, maybe they pick 12 rather. They just maybe wait on it and roll it back with Jimmy Garoppolo, although I find that unlikely at this point.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Again,
or Vega, I love it. Yeah, we're definitely going to be coming out with a mock draft on Monday. Very likely. We are super excited to get that one out to you. We hope you enjoyed the mock draft with trades as well. Obviously, that was one that was different that we're not used to doing. But since the draft order is more set, we felt comfortable doing the mock draft with trades.
Here, a really big play in the game. Aaron Donald gets a sack on Russell Wilson right at Seattle's 1 yard line. So they're really backed up now. It looks like it's going to be a second and about 30 or 32 yards after a holding call. Really big part of the game here now.
Aaron Donald is an absolute beast. Just insane. Now, who would you rather have, the Trayvon Merrick or Javon Holland? To me, I like Trayvon Merrick a little better. I think he's more of a secure tackler. Javon Holland he's not super, super great, but yeah, I agree here. Trayvon Merrick would be my pick as well. I do think that Javon Holland presents an interesting case, but between the two, I prefer Trayvon Merrick here. And a really big play by the Seahawks here. They ended up picking up, was that 10 or 12 yards?
Yeah, really wonderful play by Russell Wilson, too, acting as the lead blocker there on that run, something you don't see quite often.
Yeah, if you are interested in any utility sports merchandise, there's a link in the bio or in the description, because we do enjoy getting content out to you. We would love for you guys to rep the utility sports brand as we continue to grow it. We absolutely love how the shirts look, how the sweatshirts look. Just phenomenal. We are going to be ordering some soon ourselves. So if you do like utility sports branding and how it looks, I encourage you to look in the description in order to maybe pick up some utility sports merch.
Aaron Donald gets after Russell Wilson again there on third down, forces a fourth down. This is going to be a punt situation now for the Seahawks. And the Rams, despite not having Goff to start the game, have looked fairly well. Obviously, Goff in now for the injured Wolford. An interesting situation offensively. But like you had mentioned pregame, Austin, this defense has come out to play. Aaron Donald getting after Russell Wilson. They've slowed down the run game quite a bit already at this point. Chris Carson only having 2 carries. What do you kind of think about this game moving forward?
Yeah, I think this is exactly the game that the Rams have to have in order to win. You have to have, consistent play by your defense and really, containing Russell Wilson, not letting him get outside the pocket. And that's exactly where they have to go. Brandon Staley's put together a great game plan for this game here in Seattle. Obviously, Brian Schottenheimer's having some issues getting some things going for the Seahawks as the offensive coordinator. Now, who do you think is going to win the Bucs versus Washington game? For us, we had talked a little bit about this at the start of the show. We do think that the Bucs will win the game, especially with Taylor Heineke as the starter right now. I think Tampa Bay is going to take care of business, and I think it's going to be probably a 14 to 17 point win.
Yeah, you had mentioned that this is a trap game for Tampa Bay. I definitely do agree with that. I feel like it would be fairly easy to come in, overlook Washington. However, a Tom Brady-led team, I just don't really see that actually happening. I think Tampa Bay is going to come in, take care of business. They're going to run the ball well. They're going to throw it on third downs when they have to. They're going to move the sticks quite often and expect them to put together a lot of long drives to take care of this game. And that's what they're going to do. Let's see. Goff with an errant throw.
Ooh, yeah, Jared Goff doesn't look great to start. It's really unfortunate Wolford couldn't go. I think that thumb is really going to bother Jared Goff at this point. So we have some of the predictions, the Bucs. And then we do have a Washington believer. I like that, though. I like you going against the grain of what the media thinks and what we're saying as well. Rolf also says Tampa wins tonight. So varying opinions in the chat. If you are still watching, let us know who you have winning that later game. Also, let us know who you think is going to win the Rams and the Seahawks.
Yeah, right. Right now, the Rams are up 3-0 over the Seattle Seahawks. And the Seahawks so far through the first quarter, with it just about to end, have only accrued -1 total yards. That Rams defense has really balled out so far. Also, let us know about some of the games tomorrow, who you guys think will win or lose in that. Here, as we have a 3-0 for the Los Angeles Rams. Jared Goff gets his pass batted down at the line of scrimmage.
Yeah, so not looking great, obviously, for the Rams now that they can't move the ball. So it's going to be a tight deadlock game for the most part.
I have an interesting question for you, Austin. Looking back at the Jared Goff, Carson Wentz draft class, obviously Goff has been pretty steady. His first year with Jeff Fisher was terrible. But other than that, once they got McVay, he's been very, very solid almost every single year. Carson Wentz, obviously, at the start of his career, was honestly an MVP frontrunner. Obviously, he's lost a little bit of that with his ACL injury. Assuming health for both of them and no ACL setback for Carson Wentz, who would you draft number 1 overall in that class?
Even with ACL, I still take Carson Wentz.
Okay.
I do take Carson Wentz because I do think he offers more upside athletically. He has a bigger arm. And I just, quite frankly, I do think he is a better quarterback. I know a lot of people are extremely down on him, but we have to stay level-headed as sports minds and obviously football minds, because Carson Wentz a couple of years ago, it wasn't even close who you would have taken, very likely, between Carson Wentz and Jared Goff. But Jared Goff is a consistent quarterback. He's very, stays in the same trajectory, but Carson Wentz can really do a lot of things for you. But at this point, I still would take Carson Wentz, I believe, at this point. Would you answer the same way?
See, yeah, to me, it's very, very close between the two. I know before the draft, you had even preferred Carson Wentz over Jared Goff at that point even. Obviously, the Rams went with the Cal kid, brought in Jared Goff. The hard thing for me, too, is you have Goff working with Sean McVay, who deserves a lot of that credit there. He has a really great receiving trio. Honestly, for a few years, he had a trio. Now he's got a really great duo in Kupp and Woods. I think if Carson Wentz was in that LA Rams offense and was healthy, I think there would be a different narrative on him at this point. So I think Wentz is the more talented player, and probably assuming that both would have been healthy, I would have went with Carson Wentz myself.
Exactly. I do want to put this up there. I just think Elijah Moore could be a good steal in the draft. Yeah, absolutely. I think one of the bigger reasons why he is lower on people's draft board is that 5'9" frame that he has. Also, he had pretty good production, over 1,000 yards in the 2020 season. Let's see. Let me take a look for sure if he eclipsed that. 86 catches, 1,200 yards, 8 touchdowns, almost a 14 yards per catch average. Yeah, I definitely see that as being, a very, very good steal. I'm not sure exactly where he'll go. I think, probably in that 3rd to 4th round area. I would like to see that for, a very, very good franchise. Like, I think Green Bay could be interested in something like that. Other good franchises, obviously. But I do like Elijah Moore as well. I'm glad you brought him up, though. That's a guy that does not get enough love when talking about the receivers in this class.
Yeah, definitely not. That's the one thing usually we see with a lot of draft classes, too, is some of the lower-end wide receivers can really come in and be big impact players. Obviously, Adam Thielen was an undrafted guy. Stephon Diggs was a 6th-round pick, I believe. Antonio Brown was a 6th-round pick. Just quite a few players actually just get slept on at that wide receiver position, especially, maybe not the guys from high-end programs with high-end production. Austin, what do you kind of think about the wide receiver class this year as a whole?
I think this is very, very good class. Obviously, I think last year's was probably a little better, a little deeper. But then again, at the same time, we have to look at the college football season as a whole, not having that full, preseason, all the different spring stuff. You have to remember a lot of that was taken out with the COVID protocol. Obviously, I think some guys could be, slept on just considering they didn't get the full production from the games. They didn't have everything, prior to the season, basically, because there was very little that they could do at the facilities. A lot of it was, how disciplined were you outside of the college football scene? So I definitely think that had a big impact on the season. I think it's a very good class, though, however. I think it's slightly worse than last year's receiving class, but as a whole, I think this is a very good class.
Ralph Castro says, tough game for Rams without Goff to win, but I want the Rams to win. Goff is actually back in the game, but he does not look good at this point. It looks like his thumb is bothering him a little bit on his delivery. Sammy Bugatti says, do you think my Seahawks -3 will hit? So if you went with the under there on the -3.5, with the start of this game, it looks like it's very possible that could hit. But again, I don't bet myself because something could look that way, and then a meaningless score at the end of the game could completely flip what your bet could look like too when you bet over-unders. Do you think, Suzanne O'Connor says, do you think DK Metcalf will go off, Austin? I'll leave this one to you. Jalen Ramsey in that first matchup, though, on 52 routes covering him, only gave up four targets and 1 catch for 11 yards. What do you see for Metcalf versus Ramsey in this game?
And I think a lot of it's Metcalf versus Ramsey, and I just think as a whole, it's Brandon Staley's game plan to really slow down DK Metcalf. I don't think he's going to have a ton of yards this game. I don't think he's going to eclipse 100, and I find it hard to believe he gets to even 70 with Jalen Ramsey covering him, unless he gets one very, very big play. But Jalen Ramsey as a whole will not give up a ton of catches. Maybe there's one play where DK can hit the deep bomb, but at the same time, I just see this as being a very low catch game for DK Metcalf. Obviously, Jalen Ramsey is going to shadow him all evening long.
Yeah, that's definitely how I feel too. The one thing about DK Metcalf you had mentioned is the deep bomb and the threat that provides for the Seattle Seahawks. We saw that in the game week 2 against the New England Patriots, where Gilmore had covered him fairly well for the most part, didn't really give up a ton, and then all of a sudden Metcalf catches what I believe was a 50-yard touchdown bomb over the top. Just his dynamism as a receiver kind of opens the game up for that, especially with Russell Wilson at QB, who delivers those deep balls so well. Jay Stewart says, if the Steelers don't pick an O-lineman first round, where do you think they'll go? We've mocked this quite a bit, actually, where they don't go an offensive lineman first round and they wait for the second round to grab one. Austin, who do you see the Steelers grabbing in the first round, assuming they don't go offensive line?
I think it's very possible that they look at a more dynamic running back than they currently have, and obviously James Conner and Benny Snell. Ooh, really popped. DK Metcalf got absolutely lit up. But anyway, I think that looking at the Steelers, I think they could definitely look at the running back position. Obviously, Najee Harris, Travis Etienne are two big names on my board. I'm starting to change it from I thought Etienne might have been the selection to more of a bruiser in Najee Harris. I think he kind of really fits the Pittsburgh Steelers' way of running the football. I think Najee would be the pick for them if the draft were to happen today, assuming no free agency or anything.
Right. The one thing, too, about the draft is, Etienne last year had the biggest, he had a pretty big lead over Najee Harris when it came to draft status and draft stock. I feel obviously did not come out, went back to Clemson for a year. Now, looking at the momentum, Etienne didn't really have a great game against Ohio State, whereas Najee Harris ran all over Notre Dame, put up a few highlight plays, and if he does the same thing against Ohio State, you're going to see that momentum carry him to probably being the first running back off the board come draft night. AZ Rack says, I'm back. Welcome back to the stream. Glad to have each and every one of you in here. You have no idea how much your support means to us. Thank you guys for stopping in and saying hi in the streams. Keep asking us some questions. The questions you guys have been asking have been absolutely phenomenal, so thank you guys so much for that. And don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already. We do live videos like this quite often. We also do other videos essentially every single day. So if that's something you guys are interested in, be sure to not miss out on it and hit that subscribe button. Also, don't forget to turn on that notification bell.
I gotta have a prompt for you. If either, whoever comes out of this game, do you think there's any chance they advance past the divisional?
For the Rams, I don't see it, to be honest, especially if Goff isn't back to 100%. I think, with a healthy Goff, they have a shot, but I think their run game's just kind of lacking. The Todd Gurley injury stuff that had happened to them kind of derailed them in the past. Obviously, no Gurley this year with him in Atlanta. And I just think that they kind of missed that in Sean McVay's offense. I think that's really a big hole for them. So I don't see the Rams being able to move past the divisional. For the Seahawks, I really do see a route where they could, because you just look at that team, and although they don't get the consistent pressure from the D-line that you'd maybe want in a team, I think in a game-to-game matchup against a team like maybe Green Bay or some of the other teams like the New Orleans Saints, Tampa Bay Buccaneers, who I expect to move on, I think the Seahawks have a fighting chance against a lot of those teams because, one, Bobby Wagner is so solid in the middle, makes so many good plays consistently. Jamal Adams gives you big play potential on the defensive side of the football. Quandre Diggs has been really solid for them this year as well. And then when you have Russell Wilson on offense, it's just hard for defenders to game plan against a guy like him. He's able to extend plays. He's able to do a lot that, people aren't really going to be ready for. A play breaks down, he can get out of the pocket, make something happen. And Tyler Lockett and DK Metcalf are the perfect receivers to help him out with that too, with their athleticism, speed, quickness, and obviously DK Metcalf's size. It's hard to deal with. So I think that Seattle does have a shot, but I don't know. It's hard to bet against like Green Bay and New Orleans, if I'm being honest. They're so well-rounded as well that I would have issues picking the Seahawks over them, but I absolutely would not be surprised if they did beat one of those teams as well. How about you, Austin? What do you kind of think about the Rams Seahawks?
Are you still there?
Jay, yeah, can you hear me?
Okay. Yeah, it was cutting out bad for me here.
Okay, I'm not sure if that was my end or your end. Jay Stewart says, who's your guys' sleepers in the draft? Austin, I'll let you go ahead and take that one.
Some of the sleepers in the draft. It really depends on, and looking at, in terms of like the later round guys, I'm not exactly sure. Like we're looking at rounds 5 through 7, but a guy that's really getting slept on right now is Kadarius Toney. I've talked about him if you've seen our mock drafts. I think he's being really undervalued. He's such an explosive receiver. Obviously, his size kind of limits him to where he would be drafted. I think if he was a little bigger, he'd be a first-round receiver. But at this point, I don't see – oh, my goodness. Jamal Adams absolutely just lit up Robert Woods. I think Kadarius Toney is definitely going to be a guy that's underrated. I had mentioned Kenneth Gainwell. I think he is an extremely underrated player. Obviously, once again, Chuba Hubbard, another guy that had a phenomenal season last year, and things just weren't clicking for the Oklahoma State offense this year. Had some fumble issues. I think he's another undervalued guy in the draft. Kind of looking around, where else could there be some undervalued guys? Asante Samuel Jr. could be another guy that you could look at as a little bit of a sleeper. But as the draft process goes on, I'll be able to kind of get some more information out to some of those guys in the rounds like 4 through 7 that you could be seeing as potential true impact players at the NFL level.
Right, and another thing to watch too is some guys that we might even be mocking in the first or second round might really fall. We've seen that in years past with certain players, and this year I think it's going to be even more unpredictable based on the guys who did not go and play this year of college football. Also, some guys who did that maybe didn't perform, like Chuba Hubbard, as you mentioned. I think this class just has a little bit more of unsure, like insecurity, really, for GMs when they're looking at it as a whole. I think it's going to be hard to, accurately predict essentially what players will go which day exactly, because there's like a guy like Rashad Bateman for the U of M opted out mid-season, really hadn't played up to what he was playing last year. I think he really severely hurt his draft status. Now, is that, he hurt his draft status by maybe falling 8 or 9 picks on day one, or did he hurt his draft status by maybe falling into a second round selection? That's one of those hard things to monitor. Remember, DK Metcalf really fell in his class as well. And that was in a year that was pretty normal. There wasn't a lot of stuff going on.
The thing is, like he did well at the combine, essentially. Right. For the most part, there's a couple. There's the one agility 3-cone that he did not do well in. But aside from that, I mean, he ran extremely well at the combine, which people were not anticipating, and he still almost dropped to the 3rd round.
Right, exactly. And that's one of those things. I wouldn't be surprised if Rashad Bateman fell halfway down into the 2nd round, despite being possibly a top 20 pick in based on how he had performed last year. Many had expected him to be in that top 20 this year. Very possibly doesn't. Even Tyler Johnson last year, we had seen him in a few 1st-round mocks, even a few 2nd-round mocks. And then he fell all the way to, what was it, the 4th round, Austin, for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, maybe even later, 5th round. Just really, really tough to kind of project, especially at the wide receiver position, because it kind of comes down to what a team wants and is looking for in a specific type of athlete. Even though Tyler Johnson had all the production in the world, ran pretty well, does all that kind of stuff that you need, just didn't really get a good opportunity in the draft. Obviously, he's played fairly well for the Buccaneers when he's been on the field this year, though. Ralph Castro says, longtime Jets fan, I don't blame Darnold. He had no talent at all. I just hope they make the right decision at QB next season and at least have a winning season. Ralph, sorry to break it to you. As a Jets fan myself, I'm going to tell you right now, they do not have a winning season next year in the cards. There's just too many holes on this team. They're going to be way too young. And also, Darnold might not be the absolute problem with the team, but I for sure don't think he's the solution either. I don't think he's a QB that gives you enough in terms of underneath talent when he's throwing to receivers. I don't think that he evades the rush well. I don't think he reads the field well enough, and he certainly doesn't air the ball well enough outside of the numbers. You had seen Robbie Anderson maybe find some success as a vertical threat, but I think after what we see Robbie Anderson do this year with Teddy Bridgewater, we have to be looking at Sam Darnold a little bit more realistically and say maybe he was holding Robbie Anderson back instead of maybe elevating Robbie Anderson, which some seem to have thoughts before Robbie Anderson left the Jets. I just think Darnold's not going to be the answer long term. I think he's got a lot of issues with his own play style, but I do agree, though, that the Jets haven't put a lot around him either to maybe put him in situations to be successful. Looking at like Mitchell Trubisky for the Bears, he's had a lot there, and he's been able to mortgage some success. Obviously got a Pro Bowl selection, which was a little undeserved. But nonetheless, the Bears have been more successful than the Jets based on that infrastructure. The Jets don't have the infrastructure or the QB right now. I just think that's a bad combination to have in the NFL. Jay Stewart says, I feel like if the Broncos had a good QB, they could be a contender. Nah, so I'm gonna let you take that one. The Broncos seem to be loved by quite a few. I'm not as high on the Broncos as many. What do you kind of think about that?
I definitely think they would be in kind of that discussion, obviously, as a borderline team for sure. I definitely see them being, kind of in that 8-8 range, maybe 9-7 range with a better quarterback. But I just, their defense isn't what it used to be. AJ Boye has had his struggles. Obviously, their middle linebackers have had some issues as well. I like a few of the pieces on their team. Obviously, Bradley Chubb and Von Miller. Obviously, Justin Simmons is a phenomenal talent, very underrated safety in the league. But I am not as high on the Broncos for sure. I think they kind of sit in that Raiders range in terms of team talent. But I do see where you're coming from, though. I do. I think they definitely need to upgrade the quarterback spot. A lot of people got super high on Drew Lock, and then now they got extremely low on him. I've been kind of on that path where I just don't think he was good the entire time. But.
Right. Looking at the Broncos, too, the one thing to me is this kind of comes back to the offseason where Kirk Cousins was a free agent. Alex Smith got traded to Washington, and they actually had signed Case Keenum coming off of his miraculous year with the Vikings in which the Minneapolis Miracle happened, and all of that. Looking at that, obviously Case Keenum wasn't the right choice for them. They overpaid him. Ended up moving on from him rather quickly. I had kind of been loud about that when that happened, that I didn't think Case Keenum, despite his success in Minnesota, was really, a franchise-type quarterback like he had kind of gotten paid. Now, Kirk Cousins, to me, is the definition of kind of a good quarterback, not great quarterback like you had said there, Jay Stewart. And I think even if they had got Kirk Cousins, I don't really see them as a contender. I think they'd be, a low-end playoff team at best, really, with that. They kind of, they're good. They have a lot of nice players there, especially that edge position with Von Miller. Bradley Chubb's still there. But they need to improve at cornerback, like Austin said. Middle linebacker needs a lot of work. Josie Jewell is just probably not going to get the job done by himself there. They need quite a few pieces yet, in my opinion. He also asks, what are some good destinations for Deshaun Watson? I had done a short video on this one. After a few days to think about it, though, it's something a lot more fun, worth pondering. Austin, for you, is there any teams that stick out?
Number one for me would be Indianapolis, but that's an in-division rival that they won't trade him to. So Obviously, if they kind of got past that and just took whatever their best package would be, Indianapolis is my number one spot. Depending on what happens with Ben Roethlisberger, and if they get a little verbal confirmation that he's going to be done at the end of the season, I think Pittsburgh is a really good spot as well. So that's another place to really monitor at this point. Obviously, New England could be a location as well. So looking at it like that, there's quite a few spots. San Francisco would be the cat's meow of locations for sure.
Right. If you're trading for Deshaun Watson, well, I guess let's put you actually as the Texans GM here, Nick Caserio, who just got hired, and you're taking calls on Deshaun Watson. I'm assuming you're asking for at least 2 firsts for sure.
For sure, 2 firsts.
What else are you asking in addition to that to get a deal done for Deshaun Watson?
For me, my minimum's actually 3 firsts.
Okay.
Because guys like Jalen Ramsey and Jamal Adams commended 2 firsts, and obviously they play well. I mean, corner is very, very important, but quarterback's obviously the most important, and he's under contract long term. I think he's worth 3 firsts, probably a second, and then you could look at like a 4th as well. I think that's kind of the value you should be looking for if you are in charge of the Texans and wanting to get a deal done.
And two things about the Houston Texans at this point, too, is as Goff badly underthrows Cooper Kupp, but he still comes up with it on top of Jamal Adams. Wonderful catch by Cooper Kupp there. But the biggest thing about Houston right now, as you had mentioned, Deshaun Watson is under contract there. He did sign an extension worth quite a bit of money. They're not in any pressure right now to actually move on from him. The worst thing he can do is not show up to camp, not play for them, which is the same exact thing that they're going to deal with if they trade him, is not having him. And in this way, they don't even have to pay him if he doesn't show up. It looks really bad for him. And you get to maintain contract rights on him. They should not panic or rush in any decision that they make regarding Deshaun Watson. And the other thing, too, is with them having paid for Laramie Tunsil such a extensive amount, getting those 3 first-rounders, which is what I also think the minimum should be for them, it's so much compensation. I get it. But at the same time, it really isn't because of how much compensation they've already had go out the door in other trades. Like, They have a lot of ground to make up when it comes to draft picks. So getting those 3 first, it's not even like you can add on to a good team with 3 first-round picks. It's you're adding on to a bad team with 3 first-round picks without a franchise QB. Now, I just don't think that's really the way to go for Houston either.
Yeah, I think they should definitely staying with that. I think they should really hold on to Deshaun Watson unless they for sure get the 3 first, and then maybe quite a bit more as well. But just you don't come around a franchise quarterback like Deshaun Watson, a guy that's arguably a top 6 quarterback at this point in his career. Just phenomenal, outstanding talent, and he does a lot with a little. And at that point, you should not be motivated to move him because of this.
Right. And Ralph Castro asked, who do you think the Jets will draft with the 2nd pick in the draft? He wants them to draft a quarterback and also the pick from Seattle in the 1st round. Austin, what do you think the Jets will do, and what would you do with pick 2?
What do I think they will do? I think there's going to be an immense amount of pressure on Joe Douglas to replace Sam Darnold. So I think they will take Justin Fields at 2. And with their 2nd pick, I think that they will look to aid the development of Justin Fields, and they will look at the wide receiver spot likely. So I could see a guy like Chris Olave possibly going there. I see Terrace Marshall from LSU going there. So some wide receiver options. What I think they should do is if they don't decide to trade down, first I think they should trade down. If they can't find a partner to trade down, I think they take Penei Sewell with that 2nd pick and then come back and look at defense for sure. Maybe a guy like Eric Stokes at the corner position from Georgia. Yeah, definitely. I for sure prefer a trade down as a Jets fan. We have so many holes on our team. Even grabbing Eric Stokes, a player that I think is a necessity at this point at the cornerback position, doesn't even solve the cornerback room as a whole. That's how thin we are. That's how undermanned we are at key positions. But the thing about grabbing Fields is everyone now is giving Darnold the pass saying, oh, well, we don't have an infrastructure around him. We don't have anything around him, which is true. It's the truth. But grabbing Fields doesn't add infrastructure. Fields would have no infrastructure. Denzel Mims I think he can be an okay receiver. He's not going to be a great receiver. Jamison Crowder is an okay receiver. He's not a great receiver. We don't have a great running back. Our offensive line, especially in the interior, is not good. We need to improve in a lot of different areas before we can really, I think, address that QB position, because Justin Fields is going to come in, and I think he's going to struggle if we draft him. I'm going to be honest. Maybe long-term he is the guy, but if he goes to a team that has more of an infrastructure, like in Atlanta possibly, I think he would look a lot better early on than he would with the New York Jets, and that's just my honest take about it. Suzanne O'Connor says, do you know why the Seahawks always pass to Tyler Lockett? Wonder why he has 100-plus receptions. He's a really good receiver, especially, in the intermediate to short routes. He runs really crisp, phenomenal routes. Obviously not the biggest guy in the field, but he does get open quite a bit. He's their go-to guy, has pretty sure hands as a whole. That's why you see the number of volume, with those 100-plus catches so often. He's also a guy that Russell Wilson trusts and knows. A lot of times when you see a guy have 100-plus catches consecutively, it's a lot of trust in a receiver, especially anticipation routes, knowing that a guy will be to where he needs to be. So that's really important. Obviously, in anticipation is having that timing down. And they've played together for a long time. That's a big reason why.
Right, and the other thing too is like this is the same thing we kind of seen with Doug Baldwin in that little 3-4 year stretch he had with Russell Wilson in Seattle, where he was really, really good each and every year. He's seen over 100 targets a year as well because Russell Wilson trusted him, like you had mentioned, was confident throwing him, balls in traffic, and that's something that Tyler Lockett brings to Seattle. I think that's ultimately why he's going to see the targets he sees and also the reception numbers he accrues every single year. He's just, especially against Arizona, he seems to really show out in those games.
Yeah. So let's go back to the actual game that we are watching. I'm very surprised that Seattle has not pulled, far ahead. I'm going to be honest. I thought that once Wolford went down, Goff with the thumb hasn't looked good. But, man, we got to give a ton of credit to this Rams defense, don't we?
Yeah, definitely. We have to. And the other thing about the Rams offense is even though they're not getting, consistent offense, they are moving the ball on the ground fairly well. That was something to watch. In this game, Cam Akers already has 52 yards at this point of the game. You had broken that down coming into the game. And also another thing is Goff was able to connect on one deep ball that put them into field goal range. That's something they're going to have to be taking advantage of, is maybe getting 1 or 2 play hits every once in a while to move the ball if they're not going to be able to move it consistently through the air as the ground game gets a little weary over time. Obviously, Akers playing well right now, but I'm not sure if you can count on Akers to get, 52 yards every single, basically every quarter. That's essentially what he's at now. A quarter and a half through here, he's accrued over 50 yards. He's on pace for about 135 this game. I just don't know if that's sustainable. So they're going to have to move the ball through the air. But Seattle, we've seen Jamal Adams make some plays, but they haven't generated a turnover yet either. That'll be something to watch. And Tyler Lockett, there he is with a nice grab on the sideline.
We have to also monitor DK Metcalf is absolutely going berserk on the sideline. Obviously has 1 target, no receptions to this point. Obviously, they got to keep him in the game mentally because they can't let Tyler Lockett be the only guy to obviously make plays.
Yeah,
a lot of it has to do with Jalen Ramsey as well, obviously.
And we have a little bit of a wrestling match here between Ramsey and Metcalf, too. It does not look like Metcalf is having his best day at the office here. Kind of upset at this moment. I don't blame him, though. Jalen Ramsey is one of the best corners in the league. He's going to make it tough on Metcalf all day long, and it's going to be up to DK and Russell Wilson to get the job done when they need it. Rams are really outgaining Seattle, too. Holy cow.
Yeah, 126 to 67 is the yard difference. 54 rush for the Rams, 44 rush for Seattle. Passing yard 72 Rams, 23 Seattle. Yeah, very shocking for what we've seen so far. And that is a pick 6 for the Rams.
Oh, my gosh.
Staley's defense coming in clutch.
Darius Williams jumps a screen route to DK Metcalf. Absolutely wonderful play there. The Rams get the takeaway and the score. Holy cow. What a play.
Schottenheimer is getting outsmarted by Brandon Staley so far this game. That was one of the better plays you will see this entire season. DK Metcalf trying to run Williams down.
Wonderful recognition from Darius Williams there, too. Oh, my goodness. He's playing about 3-4 yards off the line of scrimmage, jumps that route there on a screen. That is one of the better defensive plays you'll see all year. Jay Stewart says pick 6. I know, absolutely incredible play there by Darius Williams. Definitely an insane play for the Los Angeles Rams, and they have all the momentum now. The Rams are down 13-3 now at this point, and quite a change of events here with that pick 6 by Darius Williams.
Gotta love it. You gotta love this playoff football. Anyways, we are going to conclude the stream. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. All the people that have rotated in and out of the stream, thank you so much. We do appreciate your support, and we cannot wait to see you guys in our next actual video.
Yeah, thank you guys again so much. We will catch you in the next one. Hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. Check out our socials in the description. And feel free to stick around for the next time that we do this. We'd love to have you guys, and we'll catch you in the next one.